So, tell me this. Have you ever been in a sort of like argument or some kind of heated conversation with a person and you want to speak the truth on a situation, but you also don't because it could cause you a lot of pain and that person pain is just super uncomfortable to speak the truth, so you're kind of tempted to tell a lie? Well, we're going to talk about that today, why the truth is specifically so painful, and we want you to be there to be a part of that. So let's get started. Well, hello there, and welcome to Thought Raid, a show where we take on thoughts and find better ways of thinking about them. I'm Brandon, this is Tim, and welcome, because we're going to be doing things a little bit different than what we're typically used to doing. So, anyways, today, we want to jump right into the topic of why is it so hard to be honest with a person? Like, why is it a painful process? Like, why does it come with so much risk? The whole 9 yards. And this is something I had a blip and now we're back on. So anyways, join us. We're going to be talking today again about why is it so hard to specifically, if you're in a conversation, why is it so hard to speak the truth to people? Why is that painful? Why is that a painful thing? So that's something that's been on your mind specifically, Tim. I'm going to throw it over to you.
Okay, well, let me throw this in chat real quick, and we're going to go a little bit quicker today, guys, because
Yes.
we're trying to limit ourselves to 30 minutes.
Yeah, going to do something a little different.
Yeah, so this topic has been on my mind because as you go through things in your life, if you're really honest about the process, that obedience to honesty typically costs other people a lot more than it costs you, and it hurts people, you know. And it's weird because we have this knack as we go through life to think, okay, well, we can't be honest with people about how we feel, think, what we've done, whatever, because we know it's going to hurt them in some way or damage our relationship or cause them to think less of us. And so we walk around on these, I don't even know what to call them. They're like emotional eggshells with people, where we feel like being our true selves and being honestly just authentic about what we're going through is dangerous and unhealthy. And then we start getting all these concepts built up in our minds, these strongholds of expectation where we think, okay, well, I can't be like that. I shouldn't be like that. So I'm not even going to address it. And when I'm with this person or whatever, I have to put on this mask of everything's okay, just because I'm afraid of damaging our relationship or losing trust with them. So I guess the first place I want to go with this is, what's the point of honesty? And it sounds really easy to identify and really easy to define, but actually living that out is so hard. Like, what is the whole point of honesty besides being a good person? I want to take it a step further than just being truthful about something and just say that the point of honesty is navigating life without all these masks, without all this weight, without all this expectation, and just allowing yourself to be truly known to somebody. My perspective on this really changed when I got married, because prior to that, there's only certain levels of relationship that had the commitment to have the intimacy of being really, truly deeply connected to me.
Yeah.
And I think that makes sense, because as you go through life, there's a lot of hurt that happens.
Yeah.
I remember I was in grade school and I talked about how I liked X-Men and Beavis and Butthead and all this stuff. And there were so many people in my class that made fun of me and were just like, oh, you're weird, oh, you're a loser, whatever. But there was me and my close friend. We really enjoyed it. But it just hurt to think that something I liked, or me being honest about who I was, caused me to be canceled or ostracized by other people. And so, for the longest time, I avoided that. I avoided the honesty of who I was, And it's not so much as who I am truly, it's what I'm thinking, how I'm feeling, and what I'm going through,
Yeah.
what matters to me.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's not something that's truly who you are, it's just something that you're dealing with. Like, a common narrative between me and Brandon is the topic of pornography. A lot of people don't want to admit that in circles because A, there's this dynamic in American culture where pornography is okay, and B, there's this other dynamic where, especially in the Christian culture, it's not okay, but you can't be a Christian if you deal with that. And so it's like, where do I go with that? And it's really difficult, to be honest. But anyway, that's how I would define the point of honesty. Do you have anything that you want to add, Brandon?
Yeah, specifically when it comes to being honest, I feel like the reason why it's important is because the honesty is a part of the foundation of the whole relationship that you're having with the person, be it a friendship or something romantic. Because if you can't be honest, the minute, like, dishonesty creates a building on sand. Like, it's not stable, and the minute some kind of adversity comes, like a hurricane comes up to your front step, blowing everything down, it's not gonna, whatever is built on dishonesty is going to immediately crumble. So in order to have like a true, real, solid relationship with the person, you got to be honest with where you're at, what you believe, because those things that we go through that are rough causes the real feelings of who we are to come out. And if you've been dishonest about it the whole time, it could come as explosion. So imagine being dishonest for a long time is like creating TNT and putting it underneath the foundation. And the minute something happens and explodes, like it will eventually explode. And if you've been dishonest, now half of your house is blown up because all of a sudden all the real you just came surfaced. Whoop, there I am.
Yeah. So what's the real result of being honest, and specifically about how you feel, what you think, and what you've done, what you're going through? Honestly, truly, when you're honest about how you feel, what you think, and what you've done, you put yourself in a place of great risk, because we're taught that to have relationships with people, and I don't mean just like romantic relationships, I'm talking about friendships, professional relationships, whatever, there's a certain expectation of what we're supposed to be acceptable and to have value. And the truth of it is that when you're honest about where you're really at, on the negative side, you put yourself at a risk of people not choosing you or saying, I don't want to be a part of this, or people thinking, oh, your situation's too heavy, I can't handle that. But it also puts you in a unique place where all the chaff is separated from the stuff that's actually going to have value in your life. And what I mean by that is people who care, people who want to stick around, people that you don't have to maintain, so to speak. And man, like early in my 20s and honestly in my teens, there were so many relationships that I felt like I had to maintain by minding my P's and Q's. I couldn't just let all my walls down and be me, And I found that as I did that, quite contrary to what I was taught to believe, the more I was honest about how I felt about things, what I thought about things that I'd done, the more those people started showing up, the people that actually cared and, wanted to be around. And that's the beauty of it, because, when you throw that out there, people will latch on to what they want and what they want to be a part of. Yeah. And it's so much easier for people to find that when they know who authentically you are.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot more easy.
Yeah. But the point of that is there is a risk.
Yeah.
And there's a direct correlation between personal responsibility and honesty as well. One of the things that I like about Brandon so much is that when it comes to who he is and the things he's going through, a lot of our conversations revolve around his personal responsibility. Like, he identifies what is his responsibility to change, to grow, to do, to whatever. And he's very clear about his part and what my part is in that. He doesn't expect me to change anything for him or give him something that God is supposed to give him.
Well, honestly, that's come out of my first real close friend as I was going into college, and through that time, back now a decade ago, wow. When I met Dan, he there was a time in October where and I mentioned this in the streams. I was struggling with a porn addiction, and I was at the heat of it. And there was just surmounting pressure, and we had a hot seat day, and I the goal of it was a leadership class. The goal was to be honest with your team, so that way you can bond with them better. So I was the first. I really liked that idea, but I didn't really share anything deep. And then as everyone was starting to share with the fact that they dealt with, they had sex before marriage, they did drugs, they were an alcoholic, that really inspired me, also terrified me, and I knew that I needed to speak up and talk about my own personal addictions. And when I did that, Dan was immediately there, and he was very appreciative of me reaching out and talking about what I was going through, because it encouraged him. And from that point, I began to really get to know Dan. But the thing about Dan is that he is really good when it comes to boundaries. And I was not good when it came to boundaries up to that point. So I would frequently run into his boundaries, trying to change him, realize I couldn't, and then that caused me to reflect upon my own self and change. And so that really formed me. And the height of that, the big defining moment, was a time when Dan and I were interested in the same woman. And and I got super passive aggressive with him. And I, tried to get him to make whatever they were doing more official, so I didn't have to personally deal with the frustration of watching him get her when I wanted to be her boyfriend. And so I was manipulative in that, and he absolutely threw me out in my butt and was like, Brandon, look, you've got to stop you got to stop doing this. I know you're really frustrated. We need to talk about that more. Stop pretending like it's not the case, laughing about it, whatever. Be direct. So that began to change me. And then, of course, going through Christian college, we went through not all of, but a large portion of Dr. Henry Cloud's stuff, especially including boundaries. And I began to learn that you really can't change other people. It is up for them to do the changing. The only thing you can change is yourself. And so figuring out how to navigate how close of a friendship you have with a person, it's your job to see, can you handle their boundaries, and are you willing to adapt to that? And so when I go to you, Tim, I'm not expecting you to change. I'm recognizing the moments of my shortcomings, and that I make adaptations, because at the end of the day, I got it. After going through what I've been through, you're a very important person to me. I'm willing to work with your boundaries. So, and I also know that I can't change you, but I know that I can adapt, because there's areas of my life where I've failed. So, I don't know. I felt like I've kind of shot all over the place, but that's kind of how I got to where I got.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought up boundaries. So let me reread the last question. What's the connection between personal responsibility and honesty? And then the follow-up is, what causes us to be dishonest about our process? And boundaries and expectation, I think, are the key there, because there are so many times we engage in relationships where their expectation for how quickly we should arrive to a conclusion, or how quickly we should respond, or how we should respond to their needs and their emotions and their feelings doesn't line up with the honesty of our process. Because honestly, guys, sometimes we're lazy. Frequently we're lazy. Frequently I'm lazy. I don't know about you, but frequently I'm lazy. And then there's also points of defense where they'll communicate to you how they feel about your process. And because you feel attacked, or because you're still reconciling to yourself what it's like to have grace through your process, you start defending, and you start looking at them as an adversary. And that makes it a lot more difficult to be honest about it, because you feel like one wrong move and they're gonna,
gone.
Click the shot collar or something. I've definitely had relationships and friendships like that, and it's not a healthy mechanic.
No.
I'm not going to say they're not healthy relationships, because those can be extremely healthy relationships, especially if you guys are willing to be honest about those processes and engage in that conflict. Because, guys, conflict is how you build relationship. You cannot build relationship without conflict. It's not possible.
Yeah.
It is not possible. If you have a relationship and there is no conflict, I would really question what's going on, because there's a lot of stuff that's not talked about, because no humans are the same. No priorities line up perfectly. No expectations line up perfectly. So if there is no conflict, you might think you have a depth of connection, but you might actually not. I would challenge that. But what causes us to be dishonest about the process? And I think the answer to that lies in how somebody is willing, how grace-filled somebody is willing to be with relation to what you're going through and how you're going through it. Now, the crazy thing is that with the personal responsibility thing, we need people in our lives that are going to call us on our crap.
Yes.
Because there are times where we're not going to do the right thing intentionally. And then when we don't do it intentionally, we know that, but we don't want to listen to reason. We don't want to listen to God. We don't want to listen to conviction. We start getting defensive of our processes and think, just leave me alone. Let God work on me with this. And sometimes it's an issue of, I'm just not doing my part, man. And that creates a rift in the relationship. And so I think that causes us to be dishonest about our process. Like, what's really going on? Well, truthfully, I'm just not doing my part. Truthfully, my eyes are on me. Truthfully, I'm not caring about you in this relationship right now. I'm caring about myself, because when there's no pressure being applied, it's all about me. I only care about you when there's pressure applied. I've been on the receiving and the giving end of that with people. I think we all have.
I'll tell you one thing. What causes me to be dishonest in the process of, like things like fear. Fear, anxiety has always been a part of the reason why I'm dishonest, because I'm usually afraid of either losing a person by expressing, what I feel about a situation, or I'm concerned that it might hurt me in some shape, way, or form, which is not as strong as I do fear losing them, granted, but still, it's there, and so I won't exactly say what I feel, because maybe I tried to bring up to you how I felt once before in a way that you might not have recognized it, and it did not get perceived or received well. And so now I don't want to take that risk again. So I'm not going to be honest, because I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to lose you as a friend. I don't want, you to hurt me. I don't want to go through if I've been in a slightly toxic relationship or situation and the person constantly puts me down, I'm not going to be honest in that situation, because I don't want to be hurt again. It's just fear. Fear prevents me from being honest in my situation.
Yeah, and that goes great into the next question. What kind of limiting factors can impede our willingness to be open and honest about our growth process? And fear is a big one.
Yeah.
It's a really delicate line to walk, because if you go to 1 Corinthians 13 and you look at the definition of love, it says, don't keep record of wrongs, and have hope for people, have faith for people. Don't be puffed up on yourself, be patient, be enduring for them, and go the mile with them, But when somebody hurts you, it's really hard. And when I mean hurt, not like punches you in the arm, I'm talking about emotionally or verbally or whatever, mentally. It's a lot more difficult to let that go, because it's a rational thought process. This person hurt me, so if I put myself in a place where they can hurt me again, they're going to do that. That's what we think. You get that PTSD thing going on where it's like, oh no, this thing happened. It's going to hurt again in the future. But the crazy thing about relationships is, if you really are committed to a person, you have to hope that they can change. You have to hope that they're going to respond differently in the future. You have to hope that they're going to look at you and see your value before your circumstances, and that they're going to have the same hope for you that you can change, and they're not going to respond the way that they have in the past. Because if you're in a relationship with somebody right now and you don't believe that they're going to grow at all you're going to do is resent them for all the mistakes they've made, because all you're going to see are the mistakes that they've made. That's all you're going to see. You know, if I look at people within my circle of, I want to say sphere of influence, but that's not what I mean. And like my close friends, my
Yeah,
family, if I look at them and I think, okay, well, they've done good stuff, but they've hurt me in this way, and I held on to that,
that's
it'd be
problematic.
it is extremely problematic. It'd be
Yeah,
very difficult to increase in our level of commitment and intimacy with one another because I'm holding them here, you
yeah.
know. And when you're in a relationship with somebody and you hold them down to that level, you know, that's not giving them grace and mercy. There is no recovering in the relationship from that point because,
That's that's a sign that you've got to push through the discomfort and be honest with them, because the fact that you're not
Mhm.
being honest has held you stuck at a specific point in the relationship with that person. And the only way to break out of that low level of expectation with them and to break out of resentments is to be honest and talk about where you're at and where they're at and what it is that's bothering you, even if what your perceptions are of them is wrong. um,
Mhm.
the very fact that it's there warrants that at least needs to be said and brought out, however much time that it would take too. Like for me, if I'm going to be confrontational, I need a little bit of time because, it's not easy for me to be confrontational in the first place. And so I'm already having to push through the fears instead of letting them control me to speak. But it needs to be done because otherwise it sits in my head and then it festers like a
Yeah.
like a moldy block of cheese. I don't know.
Yeah. So, what kind of limiting factors can impede our willingness to be open and honest about our growth process? And Brandon talked about fear, but I think another one that goes in line is our willingness to actually change.
Mm.
You know, when you are dealing with something and you're just lying to yourself, because before you can be honest with somebody else and you can let them into your process and to be a part of that and, be part of that vulnerable, authentic self that is you without any facades or walls or whatever, you have to first be honest with yourself because there's so much self-defeating that goes on when we think to ourselves, I'm not this, when actually it's true. It's like me ignoring all the dishes in my sink saying, my house isn't dirty while mold grows. Or guys, like that check engine light that's been on for months, you can ignore it all you want, but there is still a problem there. You can say, it doesn't matter. And then, 2 months down the road when your engine blows and you have to spend $4,000 instead of the $300 to change something, which is my current situation. Thinking about this right now, I just need to take care of it. You think, crap, this happened. Why did this happen to me? And you get into this thought process and this mode of, how did this happen? I'm a victim.
How could this
everybody
happen
pity
to me? I made a mistake.
You saw the warning signs all along. You just were not willing to be open with yourself that, hey, I need to take responsibility for this. So being honest with yourself about what you need to change. If you look biblically at all this stuff, there were so many people that did not want God to touch certain parts of their heart, and he didn't, because God does not insist on his own way.
Mm.
If there is an issue that you have that keeps you apart from loving people, being loved yourself, walking in love, walking with no walls, and
Uh-oh. Oh no. We have a frozen Tim. I'll come over to this screen until we see if he comes back. Also, curiously, is this on my end? Nope, the stream still seems to be going. It is just primarily on Tim's end. There we go. Okay, you're coming back. Good. All of a sudden, you just vanished. Okay.
That was really weird.
I know. It just also just froze.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
What was I saying?
I remember the image of your face. But the minute you disappear, my focus breaks. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, that's okay. Something. I don't know. So we were talking about what kind of limiting factors can impede our willingness to be open and honest about our growth process. I forgot what I was saying. But
I gotta find like a way to like have like an instant replay set up so that if that happens, we could just hit the button for instant replay and it goes back and replays that, and then it shows your beautiful face frozen in one position.
Yeah. Well, I think I was talking about just being honest with ourselves about something.
Right, that was definitely
Um,
the case because you were talking about the important, like you were recently. What I do remember you talking about was you were talking about your engine and how it was a problem that needed to be dealt with, and you kept the light on for a long time, and now you've got yourself a $4,000 issue.
oh, that's right. I was talking about being a victim.
Yes, victim. That's right. Yes. Okay.
Yes. So there's a lot of people walking around right now with this victim mentality of why is the world against me? You know? And it's not an issue of the world being against you. I mean, you can see that if you go looking for it because there's all these people out there that think the world's against them and everybody's trying to take. Pity me, give to me, solve my issues, focus on me. I'm empty. I'm not valuable. Tell me that I'm valuable. Everybody's thinking,
Yeah.
you know? But nobody can give you that. Nobody can give you that sense of value. Nobody can solve your problems for you. And the more you search for that, the more of a contributing factor to the overall problem you are. And I'm speaking to myself here because I do this too. I'm speaking for Brandon because he does it more than I do.
Wow.
But you know, the thing is, guys, when you think to yourself, "I'm the victim in this situation," well, you know, you're a big boy, you're a big girl, you're a big they. If you're non-binary, whatever, you know, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, Tim. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps and think to yourself, "What is my part in this? I'm not a victim. I can't have other people fix my problems for me. I can't have other people give me my value. I have to reconcile that to myself first."
Mm.
Because otherwise you're just going to live a life that's pretty much nothing but people pleasing. You're looking at other people thinking, how can I please them enough so that they'll see value in me? Or what can I do to have them view me the way I want to view myself, which is problem free? I want to lie to myself enough so that I don't have problems, so much that I convince other people that I don't have problems also. And yet I want people to have pity for me when things go wrong.
Mm.
But should we ever withhold the details of our process?
It depends on who, because not everyone needs to know the details of your process, but some people do. I feel like, you know, if like in the situation of a marriage, you know, I feel like your wife would want to know and need to know the details of your process. Or if you are in an accountability group, have close friends, you're going through a rough time, I feel like it would be good to have them to know the details of your process, because one, that will help you take a look at the process critically and make sure that it is the best process possible, because sometimes, like you're saying, we could be biased. We don't want people to believe that we have problems, and we don't want to believe we have problems, so we ignore all that, and so we can sometimes ignore important details of the process. But if we have other people involved in the process and they know what the process is looking like, then we can more effectively like have it refined in such a way that we are truly growing and making a change. For example, with Thought Raid, we are in the process of refinement. And that means that I am looking more and more from you guys. So if you're watching this down the road and you see ways that we can improve our stream, I need to know that. I want to know that. We're trying to streamline things. We're trying to condense things. We're trying to really make sure that people are engaged the whole way through. Because we recognized that the biggest struggle that we're having is people are not sticking around to the very end. And so we want to find ways that we can keep people engaged the whole way through. That's our process. That's what we're going through and refining Thought Raid. And so now you know. And so now we can have people who watch this video who can help us when it comes to, what's the word? Just being on our A game to help us to improve the quality of what we have. And so now thinking of that from a more practical standpoint of like just personal growth, you know, if you have people involved in your process, they can help you with different perspectives. Maybe you're a person who overthinks. They can help you underthink, or at least proper think, not underthink, but in comparison to overthinking, underthink, you know, so that you're not stressing yourself out. If you're prideful, they can help you be humbled. You know, it's an important part of working in our weakness and shortcomings so that we can find a way to get to better strengths.
Yeah. So, should we ever withhold the details of our process? Brandon, I think you covered it well when you said that it
Yeah.
depends on who it is. What?
I just went, yeah. I'm excited. Sorry.
Oh, I got you. So, should we ever withhold the details of our process? And it really does depend on who the person is.
Right.
And Brandon, I talked to Brandon about this a while ago because, and this is a mild confrontation that we had where we have a small group of people that we talk to about Thought Raid, people that help us with publicizing and just whatever. They're volunteers that help us. And there was some information that he included them in that I thought should have been reserved for a higher level of leadership or like buy-in with what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And it much like my relationship with my wife, there are things that I have to keep between me and her and that I have to resolve with her that I shouldn't divulge to everybody else. And there's always that level of commitment that you should require to give somebody the level of intimacy to be included.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody doesn't need to know everything about your life, but you do need to identify who the people are that you can talk to, because we're not designed to be solitary creatures. We're not designed to keep everything in. We're not, guys. We're designed to live by our testimony. We're designed to go through crap and to use that to help other people. That's why God doesn't pluck us out of our circumstances. He walks with us through it, and then he uses that for good as long as we're willing to go through it first. You cannot teach somebody something that you've never gone through.
Yeah.
But I want to finish up with this question. How can we avoid faking the honest current position of our growth when faced with the temptation to defend ourselves? And this is a really tough question. How can we avoid faking the honest current position of our growth when faced with the temptation to defend ourselves? And guys, the answer first and foremost is deciding what we think about it. And you don't know what you think about it unless you're honest with yourself about the true nature of the situation, the circumstance, like what is actually going on. And then, if you have a relationship with God, what do you think about this? What is my value apart from the circumstance? And now that my value is here, because your value doesn't change based on what you do or what you have done or what you're going to do. It stays the same. God loves you regardless. You are priceless regardless. You have value regardless, even if you don't make a change until you're 95. Your value is still going to be the same. And that's honestly one of the most endearing and more difficult parts to reconcile when people are trying to figure out who God is or what Jesus actually thinks about them. But once you do that, then you have to look at the circumstances. Okay, well, what's my personal responsibility here? What do I actually think about this? Where am I really? Am I in a situation where I'm just acknowledging, hey, I'm choosing to intentionally be lazy about this, and I'll get to it down the road because I'm working on this other thing over here instead. Like one of my issues right now is a form of laziness. I've been waking up late. It's just so hard to get motivated to do something or to go to the gym regularly. And it's so much more important to be honest with yourself about that first. Because when you say, here's reason A, B, C, D, E, why I can't do that, you can't have a true, honest relationship with somebody else by doing so, because they know you're faking it too. They know that you're making excuses. But that's why counsel is so important with people who are in that level of commitment and intimacy with you. But you have to be honest about the actual circumstances and honest about how you're responding to it. Because it's okay. Guys, it is so much better to be honest about how you're falling short than to be fake about how you think that you're up to snuff.
Yeah.
That's building your house on a shaky foundation. Yeah. It's not going to last.
I can definitely tell you that, at least in my life, there was a situation where there was a couple that had esteem in our group, and before they got married, they went and they had sex before marriage, just flat up. The fact that happened didn't bother me one bit. I could care less, because we all make mistakes, not a big deal. What bothered me was the fact that they pretended like it never happened, even though I had proximity to them. Like I knew them a little bit more intimately. Like, I wasn't like some kind of like bystander, far away person. I was close to them. And all this happened, and it was just like, why didn't you tell me? Like that, the lack of honesty was more of a problem than the problem that was created. So like in this situation, like I think what relationships can't handle, especially if it's a healthy relationship, is dishonesty, but it can handle mistakes. And like you said, it's just so much better to be honest about your shortcomings than it is to be dishonest about it with the person, because you don't know if the minute you put a shroud on what where you're actually at, how many other places are you hiding? That's what the problem becomes. If you're hiding this area, what else are you hiding? Are you hiding this? Are you hiding that? Suddenly, you don't know where the person is. It's like they walked into a thick fog and now they're gone. Like, you just, I don't know where you are anymore.
Yeah, guys, in closing, because we're out of time, I want you to understand something. You know, when you think about yourself or when you think about other people, we always generalize healthy versus unhealthy. There's always those people in your life that you flee from because whatever about them, you can tell they're not honest. You can tell that they just have a lot of baggage. There's just stuff, right? And even with ourselves, we can think, I'm not good enough because of this reason, or, you know, I've fallen short because of this reason. I can't associate with these people because I got this going on. You know, the way to transition from somebody who's unhealthy into something who is healthy is just being honest about what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, and you will get there.
Yeah.
Because people can smell it a mile away. People can see it. Healthy people will not want to associate with unhealthy people for an extended period of time and let them into their lives because they're not trustworthy, you know? And I don't say that to condemn you or discourage you. I just want you to understand that you don't have to fake it. Part of being healthy is not faking it. Part of being healthy is understanding that you are not all these facades that you believe that you have to be healthy. You know, you don't have to have a certain amount of money in your bank account, a certain relationship status. You don't have to have life figured out to be healthy. You just have to be honest to be healthy, and honest with people to be healthy, because that's how you get people around you that want to help grow and support you.
That's how you get the right people in your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what builds those relationships, you know, and it's that level of risk that you have to go into by being honest, where you put yourself in that place of, will these people accept me for just who I am? And that's a scary thought process. The short answer is yes, they will. And in relation to this question, or in response to this question, when faced with the temptation to defend ourselves, how can we avoid faking the honest current position of our growth? That's a deceit. You don't have to defend yourself in front of the right people.
Right.
The right people are going to choose you, but you also have to have grace for them when they don't do so.
Right.
Because it's like the ebb and flow of relationships. Sometimes you have to give 80%. Sometimes they have to give 80% because you can only give 20%. But that's just the nature of relationships. You know, you have to be equal parts support and supported.
Yeah.
And there's a time for everything. So how do we avoid faking the honest current position of our growth when faced with the temptation to defend ourselves? Just be honest. Be unapologetic about it, and the right people will come. Yeah. And you will get to a place where you understand that your value comes before your circumstances, because realistically, when we get to the end of our lives, none of the circumstances matter in the first place.
The truth will set you free. Yes, that is so true. That's straight from the Bible. Joy, I like that. That's really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, and you know, just that humility, like if you struggle with pride, you know, allowing yourself to be humbled and recognizing that the relationships you want in your life thrive off of honesty. And so to recognize that if you have had a overabundance of not great relationships and now you're in a situation where you have to be honest again, the way you're going to figure out, is this the person that's going to be right in my life, is to take a risk and to allow yourself to be less than perfect before them, because that will then help you eventually find that right person that's like, okay, cool, not a big deal, let's work through it. You know, that's you got to take risks, whether you're afraid to speak the truth or too prideful to speak the truth. Humility is that force, that the way that helps you figure out who's the right and trustworthy people in your life. So,
Yeah.
yeah. But I love it. And I love that, Joy. Thanks for bringing that up, Joy. I appreciate that. Well, cool. We're doing something new today. We're going to be closing it out here. So we want to, again, we're working on seeing, would this work better with you guys? You guys enjoy shorter streams. So we're just testing the water, see how this works. So I want to thank you guys for watching. It's been a lot of fun. If this has really ministered to you, I want to encourage you again to like it and to share it with your friends, and to subscribe to us as well, because YouTube, yes, we are on YouTube. The more we are seen, the more we are seen. And it's just how the algorithm works. But we really appreciate all of that, because one, it helps us, but two, it also helps other people, because people who need to hear this can more readily get to hearing this, which is what we want. So I want to encourage you guys to do that if you've not done so already. And if this has really blessed you, one last thing, please consider subscribing to us. We would like to initially make it to $3,000 per month, because at that point I can keep focusing on this full time. I only have so much time that I can continue to do this before I will have to get another job. But any support would help me to be able to continue to bring this to you full time. So please consider. The link is in the description below. But I want to thank you guys for watching, and we will see you again Monday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You guys have a good evening. I love you guys.
Maybe.